Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Over the last few days, the top CDL teams that did well at the World Championship but didn't necessarily win the entire thing have been getting back into their practice. Los Angeles Thieves are a big talking point for this event. They came 4th at the World Championship. They could arguably have gone even better. Potentially they could have taken down Toronto, and there was a feeling that in the hard points, they were one of the strongest, if not the strongest, at the entire event. They've been playing up against the Subliners over the last couple of days in scrims. Ghosty accidentally revealing one of those scrim map results. Does this mean anything going into the World Championship? Of course, with Thieves representing 100 Thieves and Subliners representing Cloud9. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. Firstly, thought this is pretty interesting. Some wallbang spots here on Karachi. Now, we've seen wallbang spots on Karachi before. We've seen spots on other maps as well, such as Invasion. But this is quite something, really. Now, is it difficult to hold down the middle of the map here to make sure somebody can't do this? Probably not, but nonetheless, if somebody's trying to defuse the B bomb site, you could just bang them straight through this wall and kill them in about 6 or 7 bullets. So the game's broken. What do you want to say? But it is possible, you know, a 1 versus 1 situation, or certainly in like a 2v2 situation that, you know, and even this one, to be fair, over at the A-bomb site, you can just bang straight through this if you want to. There's options on this map to make things even more chaotic. This one is interesting. People are saying, oh, it's not the best spot because, you know, it's easy to cover this position, right? But I don't know, is it that easy? Depending on the circumstances, it could be used. And I am wondering, and maybe even expecting, all of the cheese to come out into play, right, at this year's World Championship, or this year's World Cup, because we saw a lot of the cheese at Champs, but at Champs you're going to see all of the preparation ready. At the World Cup, I'm wondering if it's going to go next level, because there's also 4 Challenger teams there, plus Team Falcons, actually, who are also basically a Challenger team. So there's a lot of Challengers players at the event. Do they follow the GAs, right? Like, do they use single tap to sprints, or do they not? Do they snake headies? Do they stay glitch, right? These other things. And ideally, they won't do that and they'll follow the pro rules. But you can only imagine that it takes one of those amateur teams who are fighting for not only a lot of money, but also for a potential spot in the league next year. They might be thinking, all right, maybe I'll throw a couple of pumps in here, maybe I'll stay glitch this heady, and at that point, all chaos might break loose. And hopefully that involves some interesting wallbang spots maybe coming into play as well. But let's talk about top 20. It continued on yesterday. aBeZy got 12th, and so he was above Kenny, which I think is justified on this list. We obviously talked about careers overall, and I think that Kenny's career, in my opinion, is probably above aBeZy. But this year, I think aBeZy was probably the better player than Kenny. It's kind of marginal, I would say. Had a pretty good middle period to the year, but compared to Simp, again, he was, you know, I wouldn't say underwhelming. I mean, it's still aBeZy, but he wasn't as good as he was last year, really. So I think maybe this placing is not too far away from where I was, you know, where I put him personally in my list. And also, you know, kills per 10, damage per 10, stuff like this. You're usually expecting like a really fast, aggressive play from aBeZy. And, you know, we saw that to some degree, but maybe not as much as usual. What you will still see, though, is his search and destroy first blood rate is right up there. I mean, he still has the most first bloods by miles in the entire league, and that was no different this season as well. 11th place, though, goes to Sib, and I think this is, you know, very much justified. He was great this year, certainly towards the end of the year. He wasn't that good for the first few stages. I saw some talk as well, because if you guys remember right at the start of the season, when Sib was, well, it wasn't actually meant to be leaked. He said it on stream and he didn't realize they were live. He mentioned his thumb and having like, maybe it wasn't his thumb, it's just like a wrist injury, carpal tunnel, something like that. He had some complaints about pain in his wrist and his hands, and there was a lot of talk actually at the start of the season as to whether Sib was going to have to, you know, take some time out or whatever. There was discussion on it in the community at the time. But apparently he said that like at some point in the season he took his control freak off, and like that actually made it an awful lot better. Like he's basically perfect now. And to be fair, at the end of the season this guy was frying. I mean, the impact that he had I thought was really, really high. Arguably their best player at the World Championship, probably apart from HyDra, but he was, you know, right up there in the conversation. You could even argue Sib at Champs was like the best AR of the event. I mean, if you think about the AR, like Kenny and Dashy had their moments, but really it was Priestahh and Shotzzy that were doing most of the takeover work. You look at the other teams out there, was there an AR at Champs better than Sib? I mean, maybe Scrap, but I don't know, he didn't have his best World Championship probably again. So I was really impressed by Sib's performance this year, and I think honestly his mentality, the way that he's kind of changed and grown, has improved as a player, has been really impressive as well. So 11th place for Sib. If you'd have told me this after the first 3 stages, I'd have said, yeah, I don't know about that one. I don't think he was that good on average. I mean, his Search and Destroy was particularly bad in Stage 2, but from Stage 4, Stage 5, he was right up there. Couple of questions going around about FaZe, actually. I did see that Kenny talked about his favourite teammate on OpTic, and he actually didn't hesitate long before saying that it's Dashy. The AR duo are often getting along well, but there was some questions. What if Kenny had gone to FaZe instead, or if Drazah had gone to OpTic? I do always wonder, if Drazah had actually chosen OpTic, what would FaZe have done? Like, would they have got Kenny in the end? I guess maybe they would have done, right? Like, or because they were going to make a change. They were pretty committed to swapping out Slasher for a flex player because they wanted Cell to be the main AR, which is, in my opinion, probably not the way to go. I think we've seen that over the last couple of years, but whatever. We'll see what they do at the World Cup. But if Kenny had come in, would they have been better? Would they have been the same? Would they have been worse? Like, my feeling has kind of been that I think actually both personalities ended up working rather well for both teams they found themselves on. I definitely think that OpTic would have been probably worse with Drazah. Not because Drazah individually is necessarily a worse player from like a skill standpoint. I just think that what Kenny brought to that team was very important, and I don't think Drazah would necessarily have done that. Kenny also for FaZe could have been a very valuable player as well, but you know, would they have won another major? Would that solve their problem, right? I think this is one of the points that people are saying at this point is like, does it really matter what fourth you put in there with FaZe? Are they just like doomed to not succeed in the way that they should? I don't necessarily think that's true, but I definitely think, you know, there is more to it than just the fourth player not being good enough, right? Because we've seen over the last few years that for whatever reason, they still can't quite get the results. So probably this year is the year they finally realise that. But then again, what if they go to the World Cup and win it? They might decide, you know what, we're going to run it back for next season. I know that Trey was talking about this on the show the other day as well and was basically saying like, Cell needs to play faster again if they want to turn things around. There's even been talk, what if you bring Slasher back? I saw some discussion as well as to like, do you really need an incredibly talented fourth player? Because that's kind of the argument is that, well, why would you make a change for Drazah or for Cell or whatever you want to do if you can't find a player that is equally talented or that is actually worthy of playing on FaZe? And that might be a fair analysis, but maybe the other argument would be that when you've got that much talent on the team already with, let's just say, Simp, aBeZy, Cell, or even Simp, aBeZy, Drazah, whatever you want to say, let's say Simp, aBeZy, Cell, keep that trio around and make a change for Drazah. People are looking for players as good as Drazah or in that kind of ballpark to replace him again and then see what you do from there. Because, you know, I think Slasher coming back wouldn't be a terrible idea if, you know, different game, if Cell was actually going to play faster on the flex role, whatever. But there's also an argument to say, how about just a solid role player that's going to do their job? I mean, you know, HyDra, I think, is a solid player. He's not mechanically the most gifted player in the league, and he's not in the league anymore, unfortunately, but, you know, they won an event with HyDra, and they came second at Champs Toronto with HyDra. So does it mean that FaZe couldn't sign, you know, somebody else? But of course, the other option people are really looking at here is Ghosty, right? Because that might make a bit of sense, and he's got the talent to be in that conversation as well. Thieves obviously want to keep him. In some ways, Ghosty probably wants to stay on Thieves, but people have been kind of joking about FaZe Ghosty and all this stuff over the last couple of weeks for good reason. But Ghosty was on stream last night and, well, just straight up leaks a scoreboard from their scrims that they were playing, I suppose, just before he turned the stream on and went live. So they played, obviously, hardpoints and they played controls up against New York Subliners, and Ghosty realizes, having leaked this to the public, that probably he shouldn't have let that be known. So it's interesting to really see that Ghosty and Thieves are scrimming, that Subliners are scrimming. Okay, obviously they're going to be practicing the World Cup. I mean, they're going to leave, what, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday at the very latest, but probably Sunday, Monday for the World Cup in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. They've got to get some practice in. OpTic, I assume, are doing the same, although they've not streamed any of it yet, unfortunately, and Ghosty didn't stream any of it, but we did still get to see one of the results. I'll share the latter half of the clip, and then let's have a look at the scoreboard.
Oh, oopsies. Bro, that's like a force of habit. Oh my god, oopsies. Yeah, my bad, yo.
One shot.
I was world siren, as you guys could see, chat. My bad. Yo, GG's to those guys, chat. Bro, it's a force of habit. I actually feel bad now, bro. I hate doing that. Bro, I showed our script.
So here we go. This was the scoreboard from that map of control. They played Thieves 1, 3-2 in the final rounds. And, well, as you can see, Ghosty, 36 kills. JoeDeceives with 31, Crump with 35, Nastie with 25 for the dub. The Subliners, or I guess I should start calling them Cloud9 really, because I think that's what they're going to be next season, and obviously for the World Cup as well. Kismet at 34, HyDra with 38. That scoreboard was kind of glitching, so actually I found a better screenshot right here so we can see it as well for the Thieves side. Ghosty went 36 in 24. and for the dub. And that's Ghosty says, yeah, I was frying these cats. Like, then obviously we have Kismet with a great map as well, HyDra 38 and 36. So it's the thing with HyDra, I mean, I've talked about it before, and I'll talk about it probably again, that not only does he usually have the most kills, but also like his engagement rate is incredibly high for a player that delivers the KD that he does. Simp had a rough one, 20 and 20 and 20 and 35 actually. I think Simp even mentioned on, well, maybe it wasn't yesterday or day before, whatever, he did the Stay Attached podcast episode, and he mentioned that day of scrims that he was playing, his controller was off, he didn't feel great or whatever. So, I don't know, maybe Simp's been struggling a bit in scrims over the last few days. It's just one screenshot. It is what it is. But nonetheless, Ghosty putting out a bit of a statement, even if it was accidental to put out the statement, that, like, I'm still here. I do think, though, for the World Cup, it's going to be fascinating to see, because if Ghosty comes along, and also the fact that probably Ghosty will play FaZe in their group, it's quite likely that both 100 Thieves and FaZe win their first round game. They're in the same group together. Ghosty may play FaZe, so it's going to be really interesting, because Champs was obviously very important and is the most important event, and also it will prove to be the most important event, I think, Champs, in terms of determining roster decisions for next year. But this event is still rather critical, and it's another great opportunity for some players to prove that, they are the guys to be signed. They are the top candidates. They are the people that people should be looking at, especially if you're a top team making a roster change. Now, Subliners, HyDra ain't going anywhere, Sib isn't going anywhere, as far as I'm concerned anyway. The other two, I mean, Skyz and Kismet, you can probably make arguments to change both of those out depending how things go at the World Cup, and as I've said before, they made a change after winning Champs last year, so do not rule out the Cloud9 boys for making a change after this year. This I thought was kind of interesting. Ex-teammates who matched up in a Champs Grand Final, so obviously 2014 it happens, and it has happened a fair few times over the last couple of years, right? Envoy versus RCTs at Champs 22, and this year, of course, we have the Pred versus Sib to close out the season. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Just one final thing for you guys to check out. The boys, as always, have been doing a killer job on the website lately, and they actually have now the trophy cabinet for the players on the site. So, the trophies that they've won, and also where they finished in the Breaking Point rankings, that type of stuff. I think we've got, back down to Cold War for now, and then we're going to try and add everything else we can from the rest of these guys' careers, certainly pre-CDL. But hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
I just want to get out of California, man. We've also had a little bit of trouble, like, at this house and just LA in general. I hate having the conversation on stream because I'm not ignorant to the fact that crime could happen anywhere. It truly can happen anywhere. It's not just one city in the country and that's it. About a year ago, around this time, somebody broke into my car when it was parked in my driveway. My garage door was broken right before we left for the trip. I wasn't able to get it open, so I just left my car in the driveway. It was just the worst timing ever. I'm in like Miami on a boat in the middle of the ocean for a wedding. The house sitter sent me a video. I woke up that morning to a text, and there was like a brick through my car window. They took everything out of there, and then I went back. We have cameras all over the property, and they tried to get into the house as well. So ever since then, this house and just like LA has been stained, and I haven't felt the same in this home since that happened. My wife was like 6, 7, 8 months pregnant, driving at like 7 o'clock in the morning to a doctor's appointment, and some homeless guy at a stoplight was like smashing a shopping cart into the car, trying to get into the car, trying to get the handle open on the Tesla. It lays flush on the door panel and was just like spitting on the windshield, trying to get into the car. There's just been a couple situations that have happened over the course of the last 2 years that now that I have a daughter and a family to protect, I just feel more comfortable not in LA anymore. But just having all the guys from OpTic in Texas as well, like those guys are like my day one friends and family, bro. I don't even say friends, they're family. And so with how much IRL streaming has become such a big part of Twitch and how popular it's become, there's just so many reasons. It's such a compelling opportunity to be living in Texas, not only personally, family oriented, but also professionally as well. So